In ancient Greek mythology, the Griffins were said to be the hounds of Zeus. Half eagle, half lion, the beasts have guarded great treasures throughout time.
I just made a massive salad, so I think I'm gonna do the whole space, just like chomping on lettuce, food in my mouth.
Don't mute yourself. Just eat very close to the microphone.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
How's it going, Crypto?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. It's really nice to get you on the space since the last time we talked.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure. Where are you located?
I'm in Oklahoma.
Awesome. We're whole Griffin team's out in east coast of Florida.
Nice.
So we're yeah, it's a good time, as opposed to well, I mean, we get the occasional giant thunderstorm out of nowhere, but can't complain. We got Metaversol in here as well. Let me add you guys as a speaker. We'll get cooking in a minute. Everyone's gonna get cooking besides Austin with his salad.
No, I'm here. I feel like I just realized there's
Okay.
construction outside. Maybe I should change rooms.
Are you in the lounge, the office?
Oh, I am in the office. They're laying concrete out there. I'll have the room.
Fantastic.
Matt,
we
what's
just
Alyssa put in her 2-week notice with Tiki Taxi. Maybe
No,
not the
really?
best place to talk about it, but so it's gonna be a bit of a shit show. Anyway.
Yeah, we'll talk about it off call, but anyway, it's
Tiki Taxi.
Maybe not the
best place to talk about it, but it's gonna be a bit of a shit show. Anyway.
Yeah, we'll talk about it off call, but anyway, it's 2 minutes in, so we can go ahead and get started. We got Metaversol in here, we got Crypto. Assuming more people will straggle in as we go along here. But do a brief rundown. Crypto, you already know a bit about us, but do an intro just for recording's sake. So we are a community investment fund. We aggregate all community reps into a treasury. That includes mint sales, that includes royalties on secondary markets, all merchandise sales. Any investments go back into this treasury, which we use to mainly invest in traditional equities. I know you may hear a lot of investment companies or investment projects that say we're going to take revenues and then invest in other projects. We're going to buy singular NFTs with our treasury and then try to use that to reward holders. We kind of take more traditional route. Austin can speak on this more. He's our president and founder and also comes from an asset management background. But we'll take all these revenues and invest in mainly equities and use those rewards to airdrop to our holders every quarter. And our first airdrop is coming up March 31st. That's the end of Q1. So it's an exciting time to get in with Griffin DAO. And I'll go ahead and maybe throw it off to Austin really briefly to just run down our kind of investment strategy and kind of basis of who we are. And then we'll get cooking.
I think you did a really good job. So the only thing I'd add is our product is a real U.S. business entity attached to it that manages the DAO's treasury. That business has a brokerage account, so we're able to invest in a lot of different asset classes. And it's an investment company, so based on how our investments do, we like to reward our members with quarterly SOL airdrops. We publish monthly reports showing our portfolio's performance, any expenses that the DAOs had to pay. But that's a little bit about us. And if you want to learn more, definitely come to our Discord. The basics of our investment strategy: we're a long only fund, and we're looking for long-term investments. Rip off a lot of what Buffett talks about as far as durable competitive advantages, circle of competence, good management teams. We've talked a little bit about other short-term plays with our members, but for now, just to not delve too deep into things, we're long-term and only buying. That's our fun. But thanks.
Awesome, man. Thank you for that. Well, great. Now that everyone knows what we are, who we are, we can dive into our guests here. Really excited to get Crypto on here and Metaversol. Just to preface this, all our calls are recorded and we go ahead and make them into a podcast that's dropped weekly on YouTube. So a little have an animation in front of the audio so you guys can check that out later. Crypto, if you can start first, man, really excited to have you on here. Just tell us a little about your history of getting into NFTs and kind of what your focus is now in the space.
Yeah, I've been basically doing NFTs and stuff since March of 2020, nonstop basically since then. Basically, I've worked in a bunch of different, worked for Apple, worked in the oil and gas business, And basically, like I said, March of 2020 started into NFTs. I was analyzing and trading crypto coins before then. Still do a little bit of that, but the NFT stuff I really dove in deep, and I like to look at the project from put my help on, if you will, and look at the project from the beginning all the way to the end in every facet. And I like to help projects that need my help, and then also are willing to collaborate and work with other projects to help grow their brand. What I'm working on now currently is traditional finance stuff, like you guys are talking in a sense, but also bringing the NFT space to the real world, so that way, people who've never invested in crypto or NFTs projects that would make them interested. And so that's where the traditional finance part comes in. Tying in some of that stuff into the NFT space is what I'm interested in doing and what I'm working on currently.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of such a huge topic right now in our space, is kind of bridging the gap between those who know of NFTs, those who know of Solana NFTs, and those who own Solana NFTs. Like, you're kind of helicoptering up that scale and trying to reach the people that haven't even touched the space yet. And that's something that we're kind of struggling with. We've been working on. We started marketing. I think I probably said this in the last space. I'm kind of a broken record at this point, but we started marketing the day we opened our mint. So we had 0 followers everywhere. And our goal was just to target like the smallest viable audience. It's just a common term that people just throw around, but just people that know of these Solana NFTs, just because it's the least cost barrier to find them, right? But now, a lot of collections are at our level. All right, so we found our target market. Now, how do we bring people in from the outside? So, you mentioned that. I'm kind of curious, like how are you thinking about reaching those people, and what are you doing to get to them?
I mean, just doing what I normally do, grassroots marketing style. I've developed quite a network in the last several years, and so I just tap into that network. I myself I have an agent, a sports agent that is my agent, so I have that network as well. Just tap into my network. I don't like to pay for any marketing and things like that, anything more than I would ever have to, because I feel like the best way to market is to sell your product. And what I mean by that is, in the traditional NFT game, where you're tying in the real world, you're selling real world utility. So whatever you're selling is something that is very easily explainable. Whereas when I got into the Bored Ape Yacht Club, explaining that to my friends and family was very difficult, and still to this day is very difficult to explain that stuff to them. But whereas if I'm saying you buy this and you're getting this real world item, or a fraction of this real world item, people understand that when they get an ape PFP, or any PFP for that matter, they don't know what it is, and they think it's like a scam almost. But when you're actually selling a real world item, it's simple and it makes sense to their mind. Whereas the other one, you're explaining NFTs, and at the end of it, they may say they understand, but they're not going to understand fully. It's not an easy thing to understand. But what people do need to understand is that finance evolves, and the PFP style of NFTs is old world. Now, yes, the Bored Apes are going to make, but they're the exception, not the rule. There's 10, 20, 30 projects a day that are launching just here on Solana. And majority of those aren't going to make it because they are just PFP projects that have very similar roadmaps and very similar style team, if not the same devs and some of the team members working on multiple of these projects at a time. And so because of that, I like to sell things. It's easy. Like when you go to buy a car, you're going to buy a car. And I think that's how NFTs are going to be as well. When you want to get into whatever sector of finance, whether it's gold or stocks or owning a ski resort in Aspen, those things are all very easy sells comparatively to gutter cats and Bored Apes and CryptoPunks. And so they're like, what the is that? And so to me, this is the future. The KYC. So the Bored Apes, I've actually been working on these NFT products where you're going to have to KYC. And that was a lot of brushback. And I just let everyone know that, like, this is the future. And what pushed me towards that was actually the sports agency. They basically were like, that we couldn't do work with you without you doxing yourself and giving us your social, etc. And then I was like, well, that makes sense. Like, if I was trying to sell this to like rich people in my family, those people would never mess with this, and they didn't. I told them about Bored Apes when they were $3,000, and they still are very glad they did to them, even though they've however many X'd over that. Because they would rather take a safer play that they understand what's going on than to gamble in an emerging market in their mind, where they could have understood the Bored Apes. Anyone can understand this. This isn't some rocket science thing. But to get the traditional finance world over the hurdle into the NFT world, we have to kind of play stupid with it. It's the same way that Web 2 will merge into Web 3. A lot of people in Web 2 are going to handle this this stuff like Web2. Like I cannot tell you how many CEOs of NFT projects handle all their NFT stuff like Web2. Like, oh, let me talk to the team and we'll get back to you in like 10 days and we'll get this stuff rolling along. It's like, dude, 10 days, we're like another world in 10 days. And so unfortunately, you have to be a runner, and if you're not a runner, and I don't mean physically, I mean mentally, then you're not going to make it in this. You are a piece of the puzzle, but you can't be the puzzle. There's no way. You have to be a runner, and so anyone who's running or starting an NFT project, and you are a methodical, well thought out person, this isn't for you, man. You're an investor or a helper. You aren't going to be the head of the deck. You may want to tell yourself that, but you are lying to yourself. And I've worked with over 140 projects on the ETH side. On the Solana side, probably 30 to 40 projects. And I started doing Solana stuff around December the 9th. And the similarities between how these are done, like the cycles are very similar. It's just ETH is a little bit further ahead because there's more people that are on that side. So they've matured slightly in the NFT world, whereas the Solana side, there's a lot of action that needs to go. And the scams are rampant on the Solana side. So scams are rampant on both sides, but it's the general scams where they're scamming for $50 and $100. There's not a lot of that on the ETH side. There's a lot of that on the Solana side. And so, it's basically education, because once these people get these NFTs, you still have to educate them. You can't just drop them off at the pool and they don't know how to swim and then let them go. There's a lot of education that has to be had here. But I think that basically doing it in the traditional finance sense is the key to bridging the gap between NFTs and the real world, which is the key to mass adoption and all of us really being healthy in this space.
Right. No, like totally agree with that. And that's the thing about the low entry to the low barrier to entry, I should say, is you're going to get a lot of scams and you'll get a lot of projects, but you get a lot of iteration. So, you're right. You see like 30 projects dropping a day. Of that, maybe one is around, in a month. And that's really pushing that number. But, like the explaining yourself to people in a traditional sense, the simpler the better is kind of like our viewpoint. And we see a lot of these projects that, it's great if you've been in the space for 3 months, you get the vocabulary that they're using. But if you're trying to bring in new people and get adoption rates up, it's just, we found that it's very complicated. I think, like with us, I think the concept kind of works with the traditional sense, like each Griffin holds 12 shares of our DAO, right? So it's like, that's it. That's the punchline. So by investing in us, you're getting that exposure to our investment fund. Now there's like, some more stuff in the weeds that Austin can get into that we'll work on over the time trying to explain to people. But I think when we first started, we really tried to be, we'd explain everything, point by point, get very detailed. And, there's early adopters who are pretty savvy in finance and they're like 100% behind that. But over time, we've realized, just simplify things and, the people that are interested will do the research into it. It's not your job to sell everything. Your job is just to provide the service. So we've kind of realized over time that that's helping. Doing these spaces helps too, because, it kind of stands out that we're putting our voice out there and also our faces. Austin, I saw you unmuted yourself if you wanted to.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to jump in really quick. Crypto made such a good point about connecting NFTs to real world items now. I think that really is the future. I mean, and I said this in the past too. We basically use NFTs as a tool. I mean, yes, we sell NFTs. We're trying to build a quote unquote NFT community. But if you really think about what we're doing, we're using NFTs to raise fund to begin an investment company or investment funds that are owned by the people that join into our community. 100% of the funds we raise goes into a treasury, and that treasury is fully owned exclusively by Griffin holders. So, and you're right, Matt, that we try to keep it as simple as possible. And our some ideas that other innovative projects are doing, it is going to be a little more complicated than that. But for us, we think we could. That was really the whole idea. And again, it was connecting our community to a real world, a real world example of an investment company that's easily understandable. And the NFTs are just a way to have. We don't need a central clearinghouse. We can receive funding from anywhere around the world. We can pay these people instantly, just airdropping to our token holders. And it's using NFT. It's the blockchain technology is what we're really using. It's not like we're trying to start some digital brand or whatever. Like you say, it's hard to explain why Bored Apes Yacht Club has had so much success, or some of these other PFPs. And so it's not really our game. And so it's really important to try to get as simple as possible when you're marketing it and when you're pitching it to people, and then connecting it to the real world is huge.
Yeah, you talk about speed to crypto, like being a runner. It seems that in Web 2 and traditional, you had time to kind of step back and like evaluate where you want to go. And I noticed a lot of these collections, they'll come out with a project first, and then they're developing the utility as they go based on like the market needs at the time. And I'm wondering if that's really at fault of them, or if that's at fault of just the general atmosphere of the space, like how quick it goes. They feel like that's the only way to survive.
I think that the best projects are the ones that are backed by good people. And almost all of those good people will have their utility. If it's not done at the start, it's some uh, grandiose utility that needs funding, and they're just going to get this funding this way instead of going to the VC route, or making it a public company route, or any of that kind of way. So it's like Austin said, it's a way to raise funds. And so I think once people realize that, we're going to see a lot of scams, because this is the future. People don't realize that this real world stuff is the future. Cross blockchain, NFT projects, and real world utility is the future right now, and that's 100% being done. I'm working on projects doing both of those things right now, and we're in the technical side. This is not a technical project. This is not all of the tech is already readily available for everybody. So, and it has nothing to do with wormholing or any of that nonsense. This is all stuff that literally your grandma can understand. And so, and that's how this stuff's going to work. That's how the SEC is going to regulate this stuff too. The stuff that's super convoluted and hard to understand, that's going to be the stuff that's going to get chopped down. It's going to be in legal battles forever. And basically, you'll be in a gray area. You may not have a yes or a no, but you're going to have a maybe for dot, dot, dot. I think by the end of this year, we'll have some sort of railroad tracks to drive down, if you will. And so, I think that the best thing to do is you 100% need to have your utility either done, or need to have it like I said, like you are buying this with the money, and this is what the utility is. Those are the two things. If it's we are working on this later, etc., I'm not a huge fan of that. I think that's kind of going on Shark Tank without even selling $3,000 worth of your item. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You're not proving your concept to anybody. And so I believe in the 10,000 hours, makes you an expert at something. And then when you go beyond that 10,000 hours, it just takes it even further. And a lot of these people are Web 2 people that see the cash grab here, and they're coming in. And like I said, this is just the beginning. Once they realize that they can actually just get money in real world stuff, they're like, oh, we're going to open the next Walmart. We need 200 million. And so, yeah, there's going to be idiots that do this. And so, and they're going to raise some money. They're going to be con artists and famous people that, I got into the Stoner Cats on the East Side. There was 14,020 of those bad boys. And there was a ton of problems. They minted out. It was like 0.35 mint, super expensive mint. Their smart contract was a copy pasta smart contract. And so when they sold out, they allowed people to continue to buy. And it was like $1.4 million of fees and gas money that was just burnt into nothing for people that were trying to get something that wasn't even able to be purchased at that point in time. And they did refund half of that money. And it was a giant cash grab. Long story short, they did give us the 6 episodes. It was super short-lived, and the hype died down because no one knew what a slow rug was, but that was the slow rug. Like, it's just, every week was a lot of talking and not a lot of actually anything being done. And I think there's a lot of that in the space coming up. People are going to say they're, and people who are in desperate times, and they're going to do the old rug job. It's going to be the slow rug, because it's not against the law to run a bad company. Like, it gets a lot of fraud people, but it's not against the law to be stupid. And so I think that's what they're going to play this. That's how all slow rugs do it. I've seen 100+ slow rugs at this point, and every time it's like the slow rug playbook. They just say, this is what we intended. We really wanted this to be better for everybody. Never in my wildest dreams did I think it would go this way. I didn't realize it was going to be so much work and so hard. I already have 2 other real life jobs. I didn't realize that this was actually a real life job too. It's just like, or somebody dies. Like, it can go either way. But point being is, they never say I'm screwing you, but you just feel screwed. And so that's what I think you guys at Griffin are trying to fix. You guys are making it plain and simple, where it's not, you're getting 1 million of this coin or that coin. You're saying 12 shares of this for each one you buy. We're going to do quarterly distribution, or however you do it, monthly. I forgot what you said. I believe you said quarterly, but I can't remember.
Distribution's quarterly, reports are monthly.
Yeah, exactly. And that's people can dig that. I feel like that's very sellable to me. So
Yeah, Austin can hop in there a little bit and talk about kind of that utility end thing. But before we launched, we didn't want to do this whole thing where we are on social media for 2 months, man, building hype, and then letting people know, we'll figure out a date at some point when we feel comfortable and everyone's just sitting around waiting, just scratching their ass here, like, what's going on? We just wanted to launch when we knew we had the project together. And we had the project together. Literally at one sold, we're operational. Like if grandma bought one Griffin, we're investing for grandma and we're providing a service to grandma. So that's the way we see it, is like everyone in our community. What was nice is we had such a slow start, and we've obviously, it's like exponential, building, doing these spaces, builds, and we get with bigger collections and we form partnerships through these spaces. So that kind of ramps up. But it started at a slow rate, so we actually got to know the people in our space and talk to them. And that helped with the learning curve side of things. We were actually able to get into the weeds about investing and get into the weeds about our investment strategy and talk about kind of the development end of how we're doing the airdrops and dealing with the SEC in the future and dealing with legal fees in the future when we want to securitize. But there's a lot of benefits of doing it the way we did it. And when we talk to other collections that kind of had this idea in mind, most of them are in agreement. I haven't found many people that disagree with the idea that slow is better. It's just not many people do it because it's scary. And I think it's as scary, in my opinion, to build up all this marketing, to do a launch, and then to not sell out on the day that you provided. So, I mean, it's to each his own. For us, it just made better business sense to do it slow in the beginning and get to know the people you're investing for.
Yeah, and a lot of projects you need it to sell out basically because it's majority could be hype driven. If it's a PFP project that you need, artificial scarcity, um, if you don't sell out, when you think you're going to be able to sell to the public, nobody thinks they can make any money on a secondary market. Everybody gets disinterested almost immediately, and you're seeing some failure. But when you're bringing real utility, or like for us, like you said, if it's just grandma, we can provide a service or a cool community atmosphere to people immediately. Even though we have a cap on our collection sales, but we don't care if our initial collection we sell 100 Griffins, and we have a community of 100 people now, and we have $10,000 and we leverage our community. We have discussions in Discord. We have DAO proposals, DAO voting based on your NFTs you hold. We're just using the NFTs as a tool for a really cool way to invest a community fund. And the people that are in the community are the ones that directly benefit. I mean, it's really just a swap. They provide funding to an investment fund, but they still have the equity there. Our team hasn't taken a dollar out of the project, and we don't plan to unless we were at a size that it made very, very minimal impact. We own 2% of the Griffin collection, but that's basically how we make our money in this. And so I just thought it was a perfect way to actually use NFTs for good. I've been buying NFTs since the middle of last year, and I've known about NFTs since a lot earlier than that. But I bought into some projects that I liked. But you saw a lot of different projects back then. It was maybe some roadmaps to make like a comic book or something. But it was so just you got to go on Discord, do some really cool concept art, get a lot of hype, get a lot of followers. Everybody thinks it's going to be worth something, and then it's the creators. They keep 80% of the funds they raise, and they maybe mess around with one of the roadmap things. And like you talk about the slow rug, saw a lot of those, and then they get to go buy cars and houses and shit with the funds they raise. And I think we've gotten out of that a lot because you saw a lot of saturation, especially in the Solana side in the past 3 months. So it seems not as much easily available mint revenue. But because I was a dev for our project too. So when Metaplex came out with like the tutorials on making these candy machines to actually do mints, that's when you saw the amount of projects just skyrocket. So I think before that, it was a little bit more barrier to entry for anybody off the street to try to come in and start a project. It wasn't as easy. And so you had a lot more demand before the supply came. And now you've seen the availability for people to create these Solana NFT projects is super easy now. So you've seen supply skyrocket, a ton of rugs, a ton of garbage projects minting for $20, and so I think we have to work through that. And like you talk about crypto, the future is real world utility. We think it's docs teams, and we've gotten some pushback depending on who you talk to, but we're fully doxed. We've had this time since we began the project to release our own content. We've done full-on interviews with our 3 team members. These spaces get turned into podcasts. We've created the YouTube. We have a TikTok. So we're doing both the content creation side, the community building side. But it all, when you boil down to our project, we actually have, I think, a real utility, a real world business attached to the project, and so we feel legitimate. But you're right that a lot of the space needs to work through that, and the people that maybe need to get educated, especially the people that are really spending money, because we have people from all over the world join our community. And they've, India, Pakistan, Nigeria, these people don't have that. Those in the world aren't exactly rich, right? And so if they're going to go spend a couple $100s on a mint just for some asshole to do a slow rug or even just a straight up scam. I mean, it's pretty fucked up. So we're trying to do the opposite of that basically, and we think we can provide value. Well, we know we're providing value immediately, and we're excited to grow the project to become bigger and bigger. But anyway, that's my little piece.
Yep. Go ahead, Crypto. I saw you unmuted.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to see where this space goes, and I agree that there was definitely an oversaturation. I think we're still dealing with some of it, but it's not as bad as it was. And I think that there's other things. In 3 months, there's going to be some new meta that we aren't even thinking about right now. That isn't real world utility. That's some other thing that people have made up, another hoop to jump through, the new token, if you will. I have no idea what it is, and so I don't even want to predict what it is, because whatever it is, it's going to be a bunch of phooey. And so it's just going to be nothing that we really care about. Now, on the docs teams, I agree with that. I think docs teams are the future. More than anything, I think teams need to have like more transparency on the finance, like where the money's going, and it's okay to pay yourselves, like it straight up is. And so, but it's not okay to pay yourselves and then pretend you're doing things with the money that you're not doing and things of that nature. And so projects that that do that, I don't like. And so, and those are slow rugs. Like, yeah, I'm not going to name projects names, but everyone can research and find them out there. They exist. And you may have bought into them and been a part of it, but royalties was a fad in the space for a while. The casino stuff was a fad in the space for a while. The tokens I don't know how the tokens is going to work, because people like to polish things. And so they're calling it, I've seen it now where they're calling it NFT DeFi. And so I'm like, oh God, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? But I am not currently doing any of that. Like I said, I try to look in the future of what people are going to be wanting and doing, and how it's going to be easily sold the easiest way. If I go into a room of 200,000 people, or an auditorium, or a stadium, and I talk about a real world utility project, that project's going to be the easiest project to sell. All the other stuff, I'm going to have to be explaining the art, and I'm not dissing on the art. I just feel like everyone thinks that NFTs are just art, and that's really like small minded. It's like saying that all pieces of paper need to be art when you could write contracts and mathematical equations and all sorts of interesting things on that paper. And so it's a blank slate, and the blank slate is evolving into a more real world aspect. It's actually putting respect on the name of the NFT this is. And so what the art people don't realize is this is going to actually add massive value, because it didn't legitimizes the art space in the NFT community more than it is now. And so the more money and the more mass adoption that we have, that's the way to go. And I say Granny, because Granny's the one that does have the money to invest, and she doesn't care about 1%. She may want to do more than that. And in this space, you can do much better than that legally, legitimately, and where and you can trust people. But at the end of the day, even with the docs stuff, I've seen docs teams rug and do, because it really depends on how they dox and all this stuff. Like, some people just post their name and they think that's doxing. Well, I could post a fake name and address and phone number too, fam. Like, that is not a hard thing to do. The very first thing I did on the Solana space, the reason I came over here is because I saw all these people crying about getting rugged. And so I wanted to be like rug detector. I had my Bored Apes, I had my money. And so I was just like, all right, I'm just going to go do this for fun. I wanted to make a podcast or YouTube show and basically call it NFT rescue, like bar rescue, and get like a team of people, have a new person, have like 3 people who are like experts, and have like a guest every week, and basically bust rugs. But what I found out is, like, if I was to rug bust, A, I would lose my life to rug busting, because it's a never ending job. B, it's also super sad and depressing. It's like being a homicide detective. Like, it really is. Like, it's, once you start to dig deep, you're just like, oh my God. Like, long story short on that, I ended up busting a web of rugs that was these same 3 guys. They're kids. They're all under the age of 18, and they would make a new project, and then they would just constant. It wasn't a rug. It was all slow rugs, where they would just do it, and then they would promise a bunch of stuff, and then never, lights are on and no one's home, and they would just go from one to another and to another. Well, they kept telling me they were 20, 21, etc. And I got the guys' names. I befriended them in a way, and then I posted all their stuff on Twitter and doxed them like an idiot. And then I found out from their mom and dads that they're 15 years old. So, yeah, it changed my whole perspective on this rug busting thing to like, oh, damn, like I could get myself in some legal troubles as well. But basically, it's buyer beware in the space, and so that's why I say trust the people. So if you put your helper hat on and you start investigating your projects that you're interested in investing in, don't read a YouTube or a Twitter or anything. Do what I'm saying. Like if it feels wrong, don't do it. Like it's most likely wrong. Because traditional finance in the NFT space, as far as the money part, it's all the same. You still got to do good business. And so if people are doing things that are shady, missing timelines, not showing up, no explanations on things, like that's all red flags. Don't invest in those companies and those people. But when you start to see people have success, you can start following them and go, oh, I can see what they're doing and why they're successful, etc. But if you're just throwing money, it's the same thing you do if you threw money at the stock market. You're going to fail more times than you can succeed. If you watch Mad Money or CNN or any of these shows to get your stock advice, you already lost because you're getting the info like 10 people have already seen that info before you get it. And so that's the same way here. Like when people are telling you to buy stuff, they're pumping their bags more times than not. So realize that's what they're doing. And there are some real ones in the space, but more are not. They will take the money over the realness. So just beware of that, please.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna let Austin hop in on there on the investment side because you just dropped a ton of like really solid information. You know, there are like traditional doxing sites you can go through, but I think like the best way to do it, at least the experience that I've had, is stuff like we're doing now, like these weeks upon weeks of conversation with people, like we form these relationships. I think who was it, Austin? We were in a space with, it was kind of, they said it was like speed dating. It's like I think it was Bad Creature Society. Yeah,
yeah.
it was BCS. They made a good point. It's like each one of these spaces and then the dialogues that follow, it's kind of like speed dating at first, and then you form these relationships. And, you know, that's a way you could judge people. But, you know, even then there's issues. So I think the space, you know, as we've said, it's early. There's going to be companies that come out that this is their only job is to verify the aptitude and then the honesty of collections and projects. But, you know, it's part of it's part of where we're at right now, is just, you know, trying to judge people based off
Yeah.
of their word, which it's in some ways it feels like the Wild West, but we're kind of moving beyond that.
Yeah, it helps that we have like videos of ourselves talking on YouTube, and you can look up our business if you really wanted to. It's registered with the state of Florida. It's Griffin Asset Management. I get not every project's gonna have a business, and maybe not everybody wants to put out a video, you know, explaining their project with their
Like
face in it. Although,
we demand. Sorry to cut you off, but like we
yeah,
demand litigation if we ever harm if we ever harm our
yeah,
community.
no,
Like
we have a whole like legal thread on Discord. Like basically, you know, if we ever try to rug anybody, like please come after us. But you know, I know we're not going to be a problem, but it's more about the space in general, and different solutions. Like we talked to Solana Storm. They're doing something with like an escrow wallet, and you have to reach like different roadmap milestones before they'll release your funding. The one thing that scares me with that though is like they're a project. Imagine if they hit a certain level and then all of a sudden they could rug like insane amounts of money through all their escrow wallets, and so you have to trust them. But maybe that is a better system. I think like Crypto said, the best thing is just buyer beware. You know, actually seeing deadlines, and then also releasing projects that have work already done. You know, our project's a little different because we basically need funding to do what we say we're going to do. But at least we're somewhat of a simple project, and we really minted immediately. We didn't try to build all this hype, raise $1 million, like we have I think $8,000 or $7,000 in our treasury now. And we've built that up over the first few weeks of having an open mint while growing the project. And so we put out monthly reports of our initial funds raised, and we're deploying capital. So we're a little different, but if you can actually have some of the tech stuff done, some of the whatever your project clothing brand, if you at least have something established, and then it's easier, and you have a business that somehow holds that project, and you have the creators at least like clear, not just like their name on some website and some maybe even a fake image, like have them like a video of them talking, but they should have something like these spaces where they have question and answers with their voice, so you can like buyer beware, really see what's going on. The only other thing I thought was funny is definitely don't invest based on what you hear from CNBC. CNBC can be entertaining, but I saw some cool, I forget, some infographic or something of if you had taken the trades that Jim Cramer had talked about each day, like since 2020, you're down insane amounts of money.
100%.
Yeah,
Guy's a moron. He's an absolute
yeah.
certified moron. It's just
Well,
like getting betting advice from guys on ESPN. Like, why would you do that? They're paid to talk, just like him.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I can never figure out if Kramer's a moron or he's like a con artist. Like I went to Harvard and he ran a hedge fund for a long time, And if you look at like old videos from 2007, like he's totally different personality. He comes on CNBC, acts like a buffoon, and I think he pumps bags like you talked about. I think that's like literally what he's professionally paid to do. And he's that guy just seems gross. But yeah, do not get investing advice off CNBC.
Yeah, no, John Oliver actually put like an infographic this week on his show about how he talks about how his wife eats Baconators. And there's like literally 100+ clips of him saying, "My wife loves the Baconator, the Baconator, the Baconator." It's like every day. It's like, bro, like we know you have Wendy's stock or Wendy's paid you to do this. Cool, man. Like the NFT world actually opens this up to, I didn't realize how like everything is like the Truman Show, the Jim Carrey movie. Like everything is really a paid advertisement. It's just the Truman Show is super hokey the way they deliver it, so that way it's understandable. But this is all WWE, man. This is all for entertainment. People think that Santa Claus isn't real, guys. I'm sorry. Make sure you cover your kids' ears. He's not, and so it's the same thing here. Like we put this false faith into people based on their chutzpah, and that's part of the equation. But you have to back it up with some like substance, and that's where. Like, yeah, I did this when I was like 18 years old. I mean, I think that a lot of young people and dumb people do this. They will watch the shows and think that they're actually trying to help. Like, oh, this guy's a G. He's giving me financial advice. I mean, he's not, in quotations, but he is, yes. But no, dude, he's telling you yesterday's news. And so it's like, yeah, just like he said, if you follow those tips, you are a fat loser, especially if you're holding long term. So every day you hold it probably gets worse. And so you have to look in the space just like you would anywhere else. Like people think digital dollars aren't the same as real dollars. They are the exact same. And so don't give them away or lose them or whatever just because. Like treat it just like you would if you were to give $100 bill or $100 bills to a stranger, because that's what these transactions can be like. And so you need to be smart about this. Invest in the team. Look at the team. There's no rush. Yes, you may miss out on a little bit of a pump here and there, but if you do your research, you're going to win a lot more. And then you are going to lose, because of the 137 mints I did last year on ETH, I lost on 100+ of those easily. And so, yeah, it's not smart just to FOMO in and mint things. And every one of those projects, I felt good about them. I wasn't just blindly minting, but I also wasn't researching the team. I was just in Discord chat, like feeling the vibe. But after you felt that vibe, you can like feel that vibe every one of the Discord chats that you go through. So it's not unique at all at that point. That's why I said invest in the people, because the people really all are going to work and they have a reputation. If you have someone who doesn't have a reputation, you should probably just wait and see and let them build that for you.
Yeah, we agree. We got totally agree there. We got Jason, who's a community member over at Griffin. We're gonna have Jason request to speak, and then we're gonna hop over to Metaversol to kind of round out the conversation. But Jason, we got you.
Hey, everyone. So here are some of my thoughts. Act like it is a regulated market. Do what you would do with the same thing if you were doing trades by the day. Don't guarantee, right? Words like guarantee are huge no-no. No Ponzi scheming, right?
Dude, I love you already. I love you. I just want to say that right now. Like, yes.
Yeah, it's very simple. Play your game, and this is why I'm behind this DAO. Play your game like you're a regulated SEC trading business with the rights that every stockholder / minter and their shares get a voting share into decisions as a community. And if we lose it all, we lose it all as a community. If we make money, we make money as a community. But I say that in an unregulated market, act regulated. Post transparent information about the mint as legally as you can, without doxing the minters by saying who owns what on that level. It's just play the game the way the market should be played if you were right now giving people stock advice. Because I know for a fact, knowing enough information about you guys, you know the rules of regular investing. So just play like that and you'll never get burnt. That's just my take on it.
Could not agree more. And that really is what we're doing. We looked into what it would take to try to really do this, like with SEC regulate. There's just maybe we're just ignorant on it. We couldn't find a real way to make this work if you weren't, even if you were like an established company. It was just so difficult to try to meet like SEC regulation D, and you need all these like years of financial reporting, and then there's still giant like legal overhead and all sorts of stuff. And so to try to do it at the scale we wanted to start at, it was too difficult. But it is something that as we, if the Treasury does get to a larger level, that we can spend some money on legal and try to issue a security token or transform those NFTs into like legal equity in the company instead of it being this, because we're basically, we've been over this, there has to be full trust in the team because the team owns the company that manages the investments, and then we're pledging to treat our community as if they're shareholders, but legally we can't call them shareholders. So anyway, you're exactly right. To basically, we know how the market works. We know what basically, morally what's right and what's wrong, and we're treating our community as if it's the way we legally the normal markets are working. And we do eventually want to try to find ways, if there is a way to be regulated and make this legally work, then that's the way we want to do it. But I couldn't agree more with what you said.
Yeah, just follow the framework, guys. Follow it. Obviously, you're not going to have compliance attorneys, things like that. Not in this space. That's why legally you can do what you're doing. But treat it transparently. Update the website. Talk about minutes and meeting notes. Publicly post them as if you were turning over SEC forms. If you follow and do that little extra work and make it as transparent, you self-dox the business. You don't need an entity to know who Austin or Matt or anybody that's involved in it, or Noah, for instance. You just do what you have to do to make everybody understand, hey, this is it, man. Until this industry is regulated, we're trying to be as transparent about our business. You either want in or don't. You want to go buy somebody's art and try to trade on the margin of how popular and how rare it is, go do that. There's a whole marketplace. If you get rugged, that's your own problem. But this is different, and set yourself apart. That's it, guys. That's all I had to say.
Thanks much. And yeah, you're exactly right. That's why it's so important that we have these, we basically have monthly portfolio reports that shows what our investment holdings are, what changes we've made. And then each quarter we have all 3 financial statements for the project. And one thing we can do that shouldn't be too much overhead is try to find third-party auditing services for those reports, have them actually look at our crypto wallets and at our business checking account and our brokerage account, and so that they can verify that what we're saying is true. They can look at the transactions. It's not going to be that complicated of a business, right? And so it should be easy enough to get a third-party auditor that's not very expensive, so that that there's even a higher degree of trust there, that you can know that what we're reporting about the business is true. And then just being fully available to the community, either on Discord or in weekly spaces like this, so that if there is some shady stuff on, we hope people will come request to speak in a space and be like, Austin, what the fuck's going on? Why is this way? And so anyway, I could agree, 100% transparency and honesty and openness. So all good. Matt, you want to jump in and say anything?
Yeah, no, I just want to say thank you, Jason, for coming up and talking about that. You always kind of round us back to the center in Discord. We've had a great conversation many times there. I do want to hop over very soon to Metaversol. They've been waiting so patiently, and I really appreciate you guys being down there. So I'm going to give you guys a speaker role. If you guys want to come on up, feel free to join us now. We'd love to talk about what you guys do over there.
Yeah, I think they still are a listener. They may have to request. I don't know if you can just give them the speaker role.
Yeah, you can invite them to speak. I'll give you guys. I'll give them a second to come on up here. But yeah, dude, this is I love having these conversations. Like doing these twice a week. If I can ever give a suggestion to a new collection, is to do spaces like this. But we got Metaversol, guys. How you doing?
Doing all right. How are you guys doing? Just been listening and learning, basically. Actually, it's kind of nice because a lot of the things that you guys touched on are things that we are just kind of doing already, which is pretty great. So, yeah.
Well, we really appreciate your patience. I kind of lost track of time. Just love that conversation, so fell right into it. But I'd love to hear a bit more about what you guys are doing right now and your service in the community.
Sure. So Metaversol is essentially a metaverse platform. What I mean by that is there are so many projects that are, like a dog metaverse or a cat metaverse or a sports metaverse or whatever it happens to be. And we feel like they are all kind of on the wrong path as far as what the actual concept of what the metaverse is. And so what we're doing is essentially we're putting this platform out there to bring all of these different projects and all of the people who are involved in these projects together into one space and build just kind of a massive networked interactive experience that users and projects and businesses are going to be able to build from the ground up, because we're offering basically unlimited customization. Like unlimited is not the exact right word, because there will be a few limitations, just because of the way things have to be structured. But essentially what's going on is projects will be able to come in and build out their exact interpretation of what their project would be doing in the metaverse, right? So for example, if you wanted to, like you guys touched on the casino meta and that sort of stuff. So if you wanted to have a metaverse casino, that's something that you'll be able to do. Or if you want to have a racing game, which we have a couple of projects that are signed up with us, that are developing racing games. You know, it's going to be all of these different kind of things coming together and making just a massive experience that you can just kind of hop from one to the next and experience everything individually, while kind of taking part in the much larger whole.
Right. So you guys are providing the framework for someone to come in here, like me or Austin, if we wanted to expand into something else. You provide the tools, right? So you're kind of like a toolbox.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And how are you? And how are you doing that? Do you have a team of developers? Do you can you go into that a little bit? How you built Metaversal?
So I am not the tech guy myself. That would be Charles, who is the other founder. I'm Seth. Charles is I don't want to say like virtuoso. That's not the word. I usually go with wizard. He's kind of just amazing at what he does. And all of the tech that we're building out to make this happen is it's our own tech, right? This doesn't exist anywhere else, at least as far as we know. So,
right. So that's a good selling point in itself, is that you can't go ahead and it's not like the candy machine material where you just go ahead and copy and paste it. So you guys are very unique in that sense. I dove into your Discord a little bit, and I saw something about the tools that you provide in the community. Anyone who joins Metaversal. Now, how do you develop those tools, and maybe you can go into the specifics a little bit about those services.
Sure. So the tool development, like you said, we do have a team of developers working with us. We have Charles, who is the head of the team, and then we have a number of other developers who are not in the public space. We actually operate mostly as a tech company rather than a straight up NFT project. Simply just because if we have people, like pinging devs all the time with questions and that sort of thing, they're just not going to be super productive. So we're kind of trying to prioritize their time and let our forward-facing team deal with most of the questions. So I can tell you that everything is developed on Unity, just because its flexibility is kind of unmatched. So there are a lot of projects being developed, like suites, and I forget the name of the other one off the top of my head, but they're using Unreal Engine. Oh, Enviro is what I'm talking about. So they're using Unreal Engine, which obviously produces better graphics. It looks better initially, at least. That's something that we're going to be working on as time goes on. So.
Okay, right. So how are you? So I get the concept. Now you guys launched, was it January?
We launched in February. I think it was February 2nd.
February. Okay. How have you noticed? How has the adoption been going? Is I know the metaverse idea, the concept is different for everyone. So when a concept is different for everyone, I feel like the selling point is a little bit harder to pin down. How are you guys kind of marketing yourselves? And you guys are doing well. It's not to say that you aren't doing well, but I'm just curious, what's the viewpoint you guys take on marketing?
Sure. So marketing it's something that we haven't focused on super hard. Like before the mint, there was a couple of weeks of telling people what we were up to and releasing demos and stuff like that, because we're on the same page as everyone else, where we don't like to mint projects that don't already have a proof of concept, and we don't like to mint projects that don't have really anything tangible that you can look at and understand that, oh, well, the team is going to take this direction and that's just what it's going to be. So it was very important to us to get demos out and make sure that everyone knew that we were capable of delivering what we were promising. Apart from that, marketing is I want to say it's something that is a little bit difficult, like you said, just because everyone has these different ideas of what the metaverse is. So it's something that we're trying to kind of roll into our marketing, where we feel like as a project, the metaverse concept isn't very complex at all. The concept itself is relatively simple, but the the other projects' interpretations of them is what kind of gets out of hand. So to us, the metaverse is essentially just a massive networked experience that is built from the ground up by the people inside of it. So on top of that, there's going to be like deep connections to the real world, like you guys were talking about. It is not a digital only thing that we're doing. This is very applicable to real world, like brick and mortar businesses. We have a couple of those signing up and that sort of stuff. So it's the metaverse concept is basically the universe in general. Like, what can you do in real life? Why can you not do that in what people are calling a metaverse? You should be able to. So we're just enabling people to do that, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. Again, I'm in the space, so I've had a little bit more time to wrap my head around the idea that whatever you do in real life, you could do on the internet, and it's getting more and more easier to do that. You know, you say you're adopting brick and mortar companies as well. I'm really interested to realize like how they're doing that. Maybe you're not able to talk about exactly what they are at the moment, but if you are able to, I'd be interested, because the idea of getting brick and mortar in the metaverse is exciting for us because we're trying to get, you know, the average investor, grandma, the people that have been investing their entire lives to hop over to Web3 and hop over to investing through NFTs. So I'm kind of curious and go into that.
Well, it's mostly about giving digital representation to these businesses. So things like, there's no reason why you can't do things like head to, a clothes store. Like, let's take Kohl's, for example, right? Kohl's is a pretty well-known place. There's no reason why they can't have a store in the metaverse where you can go through and browse through all the different stuff, maybe even try it on your avatar if you really want to. But there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to go through these things and browse through everything they've got, pick out what you like, and buy them on the spot and have them delivered to your house. There's no reason you shouldn't be able to do that. And so it's those types of things that we're going to be enabling brick and mortar businesses to do. And I can't go into too much detail on exactly what we've got going on, but we do have, there is an apparel shop, like I was talking about. And additionally, there's a couple of restaurant type places that have approached us as well. So that's something that we're looking at also, because why can't you order dinner in the metaverse, right? Like, it makes no sense why people are pigeonholing themselves into these extremely narrow things, like, oh, we're a metaverse about space. Like, is that really a metaverse or is it a space game? Right? So
yeah,
that's just kind of the approach we're taking. Yeah.
Ordering pizzas, trying on clothes, and then getting that shipped to you directly. That's so much out there that has already been talked about for a while. I remember first hearing about those changing room mirrors that you try on the clothes in the mirror. It's an app, and then they send the clothes directly to you. Like that's a concept that's been out for at least 5 years, and now the technology is kind of caught up to that. You can do that within a metaverse, on a VR headset or whatever. There's so much there. So the way you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the analogy that I'm kind of thinking of when I hear you speak is like, just imagine early Adobe, right? Like, many people in this space know about Adobe. We're kind of all in some way creators. We dabbled in Photoshop. Well, back in the day on Adobe, the amount of computing power and time it took to do like a simple like crop or something was insane. Today, the software is like much better, but long story short, you didn't have to be an expert at editing. You had this program that had the tools in place that some developers spent, years on making, so that Joe can go on his computer and like click a button and something, magical is done to an image or video. And I feel like with you guys are providing the time, you're putting in the time to create these tools. So it feels like you're like early Adobe, and then people like brick and mortar stores are going to look for something that has a full tool set to get their individual metaverse or business on the metaverse. So with that in mind, I would suggest, like, not that I'm one to preach, but I do spend some quite amount of time considering marketing and like psychology. Um, how did early Adobe market themselves to the average person? Because I know they started with businesses, but then they moved to the individual. So that'd be an interesting area to kind of dive into. Just my take.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting comparison, and I kind of agree. We kind of already started marketing to individual users because the truth of the matter is that individual users and projects and businesses and whoever else are all going to have access to the same exact tools, pretty much exactly like you said, right? So, people will be able to hop on and design their own games or, design their own personalized experiences in whatever space they happen to own. So that's a really interesting comparison and maybe something that I should look into. I like that idea. Yeah.
Well, I ramble sometimes, but I hear some connections out there. And anyway, we got a good amount of people who have gone through this space and had a chance to check us out. If we have any questions for either the speakers, Crypto or Metaversal, feel free to toss those up now. Otherwise, I'm just gonna do a quick reset. We do generally round the space out at about an hour. We put all our spaces up on a podcast on our YouTube channel. It's called Journeyman Journals. We have this whole ancient theme, so that's kind of our way of rooting it back home. Austin, you unmuted?
No, I'm just been listening. You've been doing a great
Oh,
job. But yeah. Oh, was that Metaversal?
No, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to stress you do put it all up online on our YouTube, and it is nice to have it available to our community, and especially I've listened to a couple past pods now, and kind of gained a little bit more insight listening to some of the people we spoke to in the past. But it is cool, the whole Twitter Spaces is so valuable, and then having the ability to record them and put them up as like a podcast form. I think it's a huge thing that a lot of projects should do. Schedule at least one a week, or we do two a week. And then actually saving them. I think it's a valuable thing, and I appreciate you doing it for us, Matt.
Yeah, of course, man. Anytime, you know me. I saw Metaversal unmuted. If you had something to add before we wrap up the space, go on ahead.
Oh, actually, I think I just remuted. That's all.
Okay, I got you. So yeah, we'll wrap it up here. Really want to thank Crypto for just tossing out absolute truths and knowledge with us. I really did, being completely honest, I did find a lot of comparisons between our mindsets. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me.
Hey, anytime we'll have to do this again for sure. But also same to Metaversal for being so patient. We really dove in with Crypto, so thank you for sticking around with us. I'd love to chat more after DM, so maybe we can get a little dialogue going. Also want to thank Jason for hopping up there. You always ground us, so thank you for tossing that knowledge out, and thanks for being part of our space from an early time. We're gonna wrap it up here. Again, thank you to everyone in the audience who's listening. We are, as I've said earlier, we're an open mint. We launched our mint the day we started marketing back at the beginning of February. We're minting for 1 Sol. You can find us over at griffininvestmentsdow.com or check us out on the links in our Twitter. So we'll see you guys real soon. We have another space coming up at 4 p.m. We're guest starring on Alpha Show, which is a Bad Creature Society show. So join us there at 4 p.m. right on Twitter. We'll see you guys soon.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Griffin Investments DAO. Join the path on Discord.